Laura Bennett pushed open the cabin door without knocking. 3 weeks of living under the same roof had earned her that right. The fire was dying. The room was cold. And the cowboy, the man who'd saved her life, who never showed weakness, who carried grief like other men carried guns, was kneeling beside a small wooden cradle in the corner she'd never noticed before. His shoulders shook. His hands gripped the cradle's edge until his knuckles went white. And he was talking to it, talking to the empty cradle like someone was listening. "I'm sorry, baby girl. I'm so sorry." His voice cracked on every word. Laura froze in the doorway. Sophie Miller stood behind her, small hand gripping her mother's skirt. The cowboy looked up, saw them watching. His eyes were red, raw, destroyed. But he straightened his spine, wiped his face roughly with his sleeve, tried to stand like a man who hadn't just been breaking apart. "Didn't hear you come in," he said. His voice fought for steady ground and almost found it. Laura's heart shattered, because she understood now. The graves outside, the silence, the way he'd saved them like he was trying to save ghosts. She turned to Sophie, keeping her voice gentle. "Sweetheart, go feed the chickens. Take your time." Sophie looked between them, sensing something important was happening. But she obeyed, slipping back outside into the morning light. Laura closed the door, walked slowly to the cowboy, sat down on the floor beside the cradle. Didn't touch him, didn't speak, just sat there, offering her presence. The silence stretched between them like a bridge neither knew how to cross. "How long has it been?" she asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. The cowboy stared at the cradle. His jaw worked like he was chewing on words too sharp to swallow. 3 years, he said. 3 years yesterday. Laura reached out, touched the cradle's edge. The wood was smooth, worn, lovingly crafted. "You built this." It wasn't a question. He nodded. "For my daughter. For Sophie." The name hit Laura like a fist. Your daughter's name was Sophie. He looked at her then, and she saw everything in his eyes. The coincidence. The knife it twisted in his gut every time her Sophie said his name. "Anna was my wife," he said, the words coming faster now, like a dam breaking. "She went into labor early. Winter storm. Baby came wrong. I tried everything. Everything I knew. But the baby, she came out silent. Blue. Not breathing." He stopped, swallowed hard, started again. "I tried to bring her back. Breathed into her little mouth. Pressed on her chest. Prayed. Begged. But she was already gone. And Anna, she was bleeding. Too much bleeding. She asked about the baby. I lied. Told her the baby was beautiful. Perfect. Let her die, thinking her daughter lived." Laura's hand covered her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. The cowboy kept talking, like if he stopped he'd never be able to start again. "Storm got worse. Snowed us in for 3 days. Me and 2 bodies. I built this cradle with my hands because I couldn't just sit there. Had to do something. When a storm finally broke, I had to dug 2 graves in frozen ground. Took me all day. Buried my whole world in that cold earth." He looked at Laura, his eyes pleading for understanding. "I swore I'd never let anyone close again. Never fail anyone else. So I kept to myself. Worked the land. Talked to no one. Let the town think I was crazy. Didn't care. Then you walked in my life. You and Sophie. Barefoot and bleeding on that crossroad. And I saw them. Saw Anna. Saw my baby girl. Saw my chance to not fail this time." Laura understood now. Understood everything. Why he'd taken them in without question. Why Sophie's name made him freeze that first night. Why he worked himself to exhaustion building them a safe place. He wasn't just saving them. He was trying to save the family he'd lost. "Yesterday," he continued, voice breaking completely now, "Sophie called me Papa. For the first time. And I heard my daughter's voice. Heard her calling me. And I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. All I could see was that tiny blue face. All I could hear was Anna asking if the baby was okay." Laura moved closer, put her arm around his shoulders. He collapsed against her, this strong man who'd saved her life, sobbing like a child. She held him, rocked him gently, let him break, because sometimes breaking is the only way to heal. When his tears finally slowed, she spoke. You didn't fail them. You did everything you could. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes bodies break no matter how hard we fight. That's not failure. That's just being human. He pulled back, looked at her. But if I'd been faster, if I'd had the doctor closer, she stopped him. If. You can drown in ifs. I know. I've tried. My husband died because a mine owner cared more about money than safety. I spent months thinking if I'd just convinced him not to go to work that day. If I'd made him stay home. But ifs don't change what happened. They just keep us stuck. The cowboy wiped his face. Looked at the cradle. I kept it. Couldn't throw it away. Couldn't burn it. It's all I have of her. Laura touched the wood again. It's beautiful. She was loved. That matters. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Sophie's voice came from outside, singing to the chickens. The cowboy's face softened. She's so much like her. Brave. Smart. Doesn't know when to quit. Laura smiled. She thinks you hung the moon. Talks about you constantly. Papa did this. Papa taught me that. Papa says. His eyes filled again. I don't deserve that. Laura's voice went firm. None of us deserve the good things we get. We just have to be brave enough to accept them. She stood, offered him her hand. Come on. Sophie will be back soon. We should start breakfast. He took her hand. Let her pull him up. But before they could move, the sound of horses reached them. Multiple horses. Moving fast. The cowboy's entire body went rigid. He moved to the window, looked out. His face went hard as stone. Stay inside. Keep Sophie inside. No matter what happens. Laura's stomach dropped. Who is it? He was already reaching for his rifle. Trouble. The door burst open. 5 men on horseback surrounded the cabin. Sheriff Daniels in front. Beside him, Caleb Stokes, smiling like a snake. 3 deputies fanned out, hands on their guns. The cowboy stepped onto the porch, rifle held loose but ready. Little early for a social call. Sheriff. Sheriff Daniels didn't smile. Got a complaint. Anonymous. Says you're keeping a woman and child in unfit conditions. Living in sin. Corrupting a minor. The cowboy's jaw tightened. That's a lie and you know it. Stokes leaned forward in his saddle. Is it? Unmarried man and woman sharing a cabin? Child exposed to moral corruption? Seems pretty clear to me. Laura pushed past the cowboy onto the porch. We're not doing anything wrong. He saved our lives. Gave us shelter when everyone else, including you, Sheriff, looked the other way. One of the deputies spoke up. Lost as a child needs proper guardians. Married guardians. In a moral household. The cowboy's hand tightened on his rifle. Sophie's safe here. Federal warm. Loved. That's more than she had before. Stokes' smile grew wider. Maybe, but it ain't legal. We're here to take the child into protective custody until proper arrangements can be made. Sophie appeared in the doorway, saw the men, saw their faces, screamed and ran to the cowboy, wrapping her arms around his leg. No, Papa, don't let them take me. The standoff hung in the frozen air. 5 armed men, 1 cowboy, 1 woman, 1 terrified child. The cowboy's finger moved closer to the trigger. Laura could see him calculating. Could he take all 5? Probably not. Would he die trying? Probably yes. She grabbed his arm. Don't. Please. Then another horse appeared. Elder Moses, riding hard, sliding to a stop in a spray of snow. Stop. Stop right now. You wave a paper in the air. I've got something you need to see. All of you. Sheriff Daniels frowned. What are you doing here, Moses? The old man dismounted, breathing hard. Saving you from making a terrible mistake. That child has family. Legal family. Blood kin. Everyone froze. Laura went pale. The cowboy looked at her. What's he talking about? Moses walked forward, held out the paper. Michael Brennan, Laura's brother-in-law. He's claiming custody. Says he's the child's rightful guardian as blood relative of her deceased father. Laura's knees buckled. The cowboy caught her. No, she whispered. Not Michael. Anyone but Michael. A 6th rider appeared on the ridge. Tall, dark coat, federal badge glinting in the morning sun. A U.S. Marshal. Behind him, another man. Older, hard-faced. Laura made a sound like a wounded animal. That's him. That's Michael. Michael Brennan dismounted slowly, deliberately, like a man who had all the time in the world. He was tall, broader than the cowboy, with a scar running from his left eye to his jaw. His clothes were expensive, his boots polished, but his eyes were cold as winter stone. He smiled at Laura, and it was the smile of a predator who'd cornered prey. "Hello, Laura. It's been a long time." His voice was smooth, educated, wrong coming from that scarred face. Laura pulled Sophie behind her, putting her body between the child and Michael. "You have no right to be here. No right to her." Michael's smile never wavered. He pulled papers from his coat, handed them to the U.S. Marshal. "I have every right. Blood right. Legal right. My brother's daughter belongs with family, not with strangers." The Marshal, a stern-faced man named Coleman, examined the documents carefully. These appeared to be in order. Last will and testament of James Brennan, stating that in the event of his death, custody of his minor child goes to his brother, Michael Brennan, not to his wife, Laura Bennett. The cowboy stepped forward. "That's convenient. I was showing up 3 years after the man died." Michael turned his cold gaze on the cowboy. "My brother and I were close. He knew Laura was unstable, knew she couldn't provide. He wanted Sophie with me if anything happened." Laura's voice shook with rage. "That's a lie. James would never. He protected me from you." Michael's mask slipped for just a second, anger flashing across his face. "Protected you? Is that what he told you? He stole you, took what was mine." The truth came spilling out then, ugly and raw. Michael had wanted Laura first, had courted her, claimed her, considered her his property. When she chose his younger brother instead, Michael had never forgiven either of them. James had moved them away, kept distance between his family and his dangerous brother. "James knew what you were," Laura said, her voice stronger now. "He knew you'd hurt us if you could. That's why we left. That's why he never told you where we were." Michael's eyes narrowed. "And yet here I am. Took some doing to find you. Had to wait for my brother to die. Had to track you across 3 territories. But family is worth the effort, don't you think?" The threat in his words was clear. He'd been hunting them, waiting, planning. The cowboy moved between Michael and Laura. "She's not going with you. The child's not going with you. I don't care what papers you've got." Marshal Coleman raised his hand. "Now hold on. I understand emotions are running high, but the law is the law. Bloodkin has rights, especially when there's a will." The cowboy's jaw tightened. "Then we'll get married. Today. Right now. That makes me her legal stepfather. That gives me rights too." Michael laughed, the sound harsh and mocking. "Married? To this man? Sheriff, didn't you just say he's living in sin? That he's unfit? And now he wants to marry his way into legitimacy." Stokes chimed in, sensing an opportunity. "The cowboy's got a past, Marshal. A dark one. Before he came here, he worked for the mine companies. Did their dirty work. Broke strikes. Intimidated workers. Looked the other way when safety violations killed good men." The words fell like stones into water, ripples spreading outward. Laura turned to look at the cowboy. "Is that true?" His face went pale, but he didn't look away. Didn't lie. "Yes." The single word carried the weight of years. Laura's hand went to her throat. "My husband died in a mine collapse 6 months ago. The owners said it was an accident, but the miners knew. They knew the timbers were rotten, knew the ventilation was bad. They complained for months." She looked at the cowboy, really looked at him, seeing him differently now. "Were you there?" "At that mine." He wanted to lie. She could see it in his eyes. But he'd spent 3 years drowning in guilt and couldn't add more lies to the weight. "No, not that mine, but others like it. I worked for the company. Do what they paid me to do. Ignored complaints. Made sure workers stayed quiet. Threatened families if they pushed too hard. Your husband's mine, the collapse, I heard about it. Read the report. Same company I worked for. Same ignoring of safety. Same greed over lives." His voice broke. "I wasn't there, but I might as well have been, because I helped build the system that killed him. that killed dozens of others. The silence was suffocating. Laura stared at him, her face cycling through emotions too fast to name. Betrayal, anger, understanding, grief. Sophie clung to her mother, confused, scared. Mama? What's happening? Michael seized the moment. You see, Marshall? This man has blood on his hands. Literal blood. And you'd give him a child? Let him play father? The law is clear. Sophie comes with me. Sheriff Daniels shifted uncomfortably. He'd known about the Cowboy's past, but hadn't cared. Now, with the federal marshal present and documents that looked legal, he had no choice. I'm sorry, Cowboy, but he's right. Blood kin trumps adoption, especially when the adoptive parent has a questionable past. The girl needs to go with her uncle. Laura made a decision then, a choice that came from deep in her bones where mothers keep their fiercest instincts. She stepped forward, stood tall, looked Michael dead in the eye. I know what you are. I know what you want. And it's not Sophie. It's not family. It's control. It's revenge on James for taking me away from you. It's punishment for me choosing him over you. Michael's smile turned ugly. Careful, Laura. Slander is a crime. She ignored him, turned to the marshal. Check his story. Really check it. That will look awfully convenient. My husband and I were poor. We had nothing. No lawyer. No money for legal documents. James wouldn't have had a will drawn up. Wouldn't have known how. And he certainly wouldn't have given custody to a brother he hadn't spoken to in 5 years. Marshal Coleman's eyes narrowed slightly. That's a serious accusation, ma'am. Michael pulled out more papers. I anticipated doubts. Here's correspondence between my brother and me. Letters showing our ongoing relationship. Proof we stayed in touch. He handed them to the marshal, but the Cowboy caught a glimpse. The paper was too new, the ink too fresh. Forgeries. Had to be, but proving it would take time, they didn't have. The Cowboy's mind raced. Marriage was still their best option. Even with his past exposed, legal marriage would give him parental rights. Would make it harder for Michael to just take Sophie. He turned to Laura. I should have told you. About my past. About what I did. But I'm telling you now, and I'm asking you anyway. Marry me. Not because it's convenient. Not because we're desperate. But because in 3 weeks you and Sophie have become my family. Because I want to protect you. Because I'm done running from what I've done and ready to face it with you beside me. Laura looked at him. This man who'd saved them, who'd fed them, who'd built them walls and taught Sophie to read and held her when she cried. This man who'd also helped build a system that killed her husband. Both truths existed at once, and she had to choose which one mattered more. Did you know, she asked quietly, when you saved us, did you know about James? About the mine? He shook his head. Not until later. Not until Moses told me your story. Then I looked into it, saw the company name, realized what I'd been part of. That's part of why I couldn't let you go. Couldn't let Stokes take you. Because I owed your husband a debt I could never repay. Tears streamed down Laura's face. You should have told me. His voice was raw. I know. I was afraid. Afraid you'd leave. Afraid you'd hate me. Afraid I'd lose you before I even really had you. Sophie's small voice cut through the tension. Mama, do we have to go with the mean man? Laura looked down at her daughter. 8 years old, brave beyond her years, scared but trusting, waiting for her mother to make everything okay. Laura had failed at many things in her life, had made mistakes, had trusted the wrong people, but she would not fail at this. She turned to the Cowboy. Ask me again. Properly. He understood, dropped to one knee right there in the snow, surrounded by hostile men and legal papers and the wreckage of his past. Laura Bennett, will you marry me? Will you let me be a father to your daughter? Will you give me a chance to make up for what I've done by building something good with you? She looked at Michael's smug face, looked at the marshal's stern expression, looked at the Cowboy's hopeful, terrified eyes, made her choice. Yes, I'll marry you. Today, right now, in front of all these witnesses. She turned to the preacher who'd arrived with the crowd that always gathered for drama. Preacher Daniels, marry us. Right here, right now. The preacher, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and a reputation for rigid morality, stepped back. I will not. I cannot sanctify a union built on sin and desperation. This man has blood on his hands. You're only marrying him to avoid the law. I won't be party to it. Laura's temper flared. You'll marry drunks who beat their wives. You'll marry men who've stolen and cheated. But you won't marry a man trying to make amends? Trying to protect a child? Preacher Daniels' face hardened. Those men repented, came to God. This man, I see no repentance, only desperation. The cowboy stood. You're right. I haven't repented, haven't gone to church, haven't asked forgiveness, because I didn't think I deserved it. Still don't. But that little girl deserves safety, deserves love, and I can give her that, even if I can't give anything else. Michael's laugh cut through the moment. How touching. But it doesn't matter. No marriage. No legal standing. Sophie comes with me. Today. Now. Marshall enforced the law. Marshall Coleman looked troubled. The whole situation stank. But his job was law, not justice. I'm sorry, ma'am, but without a marriage, you have no legal claim. The child's uncle has blood rights. Pack the girl's things. She's leaving with Mr. Brennan. The crowd had grown. News traveled fast in a small town, and by noon half a medicine band had gathered in the street outside the sheriff's office. Michael stood on the wooden sidewalk, legal papers in hand, looking like righteousness personified. The marshal waited beside him, stern and official. Laura held Sophie so tight the child could barely breathe. The cowboy stood apart, isolated by his exposed past, watching his new family slip away. Elder Moses pushed through the crowd. Hold on now. This deserves a proper hearing, not just a federal marshal and some papers. This is about a child's life. Sheriff Daniels nodded, sensing the mood of the town. Moses is right. Let's at least hear all sides before we make decisions. Michael's smile tightened, but he agreed. Fine. Let everyone hear how I'm claiming what's rightfully mine. They gathered in the street, an impromptu town meeting. People arranged themselves like a courtroom, taking sides without realizing it. Stokes stood with his men, eager to see Laura and the cowboy brought low. The cowboy's few allies, miners he'd helped with safety concerns in recent months, stood uncertainly to one side. Most people just watched, hungry for drama. Michael spoke first, his voice carrying authority. My brother James was a good man. He knew his wife was fragile, unstable. He made provisions. This will prove his wishes. Sophie belongs with blood family, not with strangers who've known her mere weeks. He painted a picture of concerned uncle, stable home, proper upbringing. Made himself sound reasonable. Made Laura sound incapable. Laura stood to respond, but her voice shook. James never wrote a will. We had no money for lawyers. And he wouldn't have given Sophie to you. He spent 5 years keeping us away from you because he knew what you were. Knew you were dangerous. Michael's face showed practiced hurt. Dangerous? I'm a successful businessman. I have a home, resources, stability. What do you have? A cabin. A criminal. Desperation. Then Stokes added his poison. And let's talk about this criminal. About the cowboy's past. He worked for the mine companies. Helped them ignore safety. Good men died because of men like him, including Laura's own husband. And now she wants to marry him? Give him her daughter? What kind of woman does that? The crowd murmured. The judgment was spreading like fire. One of the miners, a man named Jack who'd worked with Laura's husband, stood up. James Brennan was my friend. Died right next to me in that collapse. We'd been complaining for months about the timbers, about the ventilation. Company ignored us, threatened us if we pushed too hard. He looked at the cowboy. You were part of that system. You knew what they were doing, didn't you? The cowboy didn't flinch. Yes, I knew. I looked the other way because they paid me to. Told myself I was just doing a job, but I was helping them kill people. I know that now. Knew it then if I'm honest. Just didn't want to face it. The confession hung in the air. No excuses. No justifications. Just raw truth. Another miner spoke up. But he's different now. Last 3 months, he's been helping us. documenting violations, teaching us our rights, risking his own neck to make things safer. A woman from the crowd called out, "That doesn't bring back the dead. Doesn't change what he did." The cowboy nodded. "You're right. It doesn't. Nothing I do will change the past. But I could try to make sure fewer people die in the future. That's all I've got." Sophie suddenly broke free from Laura, ran to the center of the crowd, small and fierce and terrified. "Stop! All of you, just stop!" Her voice cracked but carried. The crowd fell silent. This tiny girl, commanding attention through sheer desperate courage. "You want to know about Papa? About the cowboy? I'll tell you. Mama and me were dying. On that crossroad 3 miles from here. It was cold. My feet were bleeding. Mama couldn't stand up anymore. We were going to die there." Her voice grew stronger. "And you all saw us. That day. I know you did. Mrs. Chun, you drove right past us in your wagon. Mr. Roberts, you were riding to town. You looked right at us and kept going. All of you. You saw us dying and you didn't care." The accusation hit home. Mrs. Chin's face crumpled. Several people looked away, ashamed. But Papa stopped. He didn't know us. Didn't know us anything. But he stopped. Took us home. Fed us. Kept us warm. Saved our lives when every single one of you let us die. Tears streamed down her face, but she kept talking. "You say he's bad because of things he did before. But what about things you didn't do? What about all of you who saw people suffering and looked away?" Papa stopped looking away. That's the difference. The silence was absolute. Then Mrs. Chun stood up, shaking. "She's right. I saw them. I was in a hurry. Had my own problems. Told myself someone else would help. But nobody did. Except him." Martha Henderson pushed through the crowd, carrying a wooden box. Her hands trembled as she set it down in front of the marshal. "Before anyone makes decisions, you need to see this." She opened the box, pulled out letters, receipts, documented payments. "Michael Brennan has been meeting with Caleb Stokes for 3 months. Planning this. I have proof because I used to work for Stokes. Kept records of everything in case I needed protection." The marshal took the papers, examining them carefully. Martha continued, her voice steady despite her fear. "They've been planning to use Sophie as leverage. Michael gets custody. Laura has to work for Stokes to have any contact with her daughter. They split the debt payments. It's not about family. It's about money and control." Michael's face went red. "That's a lie. She's a disgruntled employee making things up." But the marshal was reading, his expression darkening. "These look legitimate. Dates, amounts, signatures. This shows a pattern of conspiracy." He looked at Michael with new eyes. "You've been planning this for months. Knew exactly when to show up with your papers." Michael stepped back. "I have legal rights. Blood rights. Whatever deals I made, they don't change the law." Stokes tried to slip away through the crowd. 3 miners grabbed him. "Oh, no, you don't. You owe us wages too, Caleb. Been cheating workers for years." The crowd's mood was shifting. What had seemed like a legal matter now smelled like a con. The marshal looked at Michael's will again, holding it up to the light. "This paper is awfully fresh for a 3-year-old document." Michael's hand moved to his coat. Fast. Too fast. He pulled out a small pistol, grabbed Sophie before anyone could react. The child screamed. The crowd gasped. Michael backed toward his horse, gun pressed to Sophie's head. "Everyone stay back. The girl comes with me. Now, anyone follows, she dies." His mask was completely gone now. Just rage and desperation remained. Laura lunged forward. The cowboy caught her, held her back though it nearly killed him. "Don't. He'll shoot." Michael kept backing up, Sophie struggling in his grip. "You took everything from me, Laura. You were supposed to be mine. Then my brother stole you. Made you choose him. Well, now you choose. Give up or I take her and you never see her again." The cowboy's hand moved toward his gun, but Michael saw it. "Don't. I'm a dead shot and she's right here. You really want to test me?" Everything slowed down. The cowboy calculated angles. Distance. Risk. All outcomes ended badly. Then Sophie did something unexpected. She went completely limp in Michael's arms, dead weight. In a split second, he adjusted his grip. She twisted and bit his wrist. Hard. He yelped, grip loosening. The gunshot was deafening. Michael spun, dropping Sophie, clutching his shoulder. The marshal stood with his own pistol smoking. Federal officer, you're under arrest for kidnapping, conspiracy to commit fraud, and assault. Two deputies grabbed Michael as he fell. Sophie ran to Laura, both of them sobbing. The cowboy reached them, wrapped his arms around both, shaking with relief. Stokes tried to run, but the miners tackled him. You're not going anywhere. Marshal, this man's got crimes to answer for too. Within minutes, both Michael and Stokes were in chains. The marshal looked at the cowboy. You got a steady hand. Glad you didn't force me to shoot through the child to get to him. The crowd erupted in conversation. The danger had passed, but the legal question remained. Preacher Daniels pushed forward, his face transformed. I was wrong. I've been wrong about many things. He looked at the cowboy. I took money from the mine company too, to keep quiet when workers came to me with complaints about safety. Told myself I was keeping peace, but I was helping them die. His voice broke. We've all got blood on our hands in this town. Every single one of us. Question is what we do next. He turned to Laura and the cowboy. I'll marry you. Right here. Right now. Before God and these witnesses. Because if there's one thing I've learned today, it's that redemption starts with one person choosing to do right when everyone else chose wrong. The cowboy looked at Laura. You sure? After everything you've learned about me? She took his hand. I'm sure. Because you chose to stop. That's what matters. They stood in the street, Sophie between them holding both their hands. The preacher opened his Bible. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here in sight of God, and these witnesses to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony. His voice carried over the silent crowd. Do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? To have and to hold, for better or worse, in sickness and health, as long as you both shall live. The cowboy's voice was steady. I do, and I promise to spend every day trying to be worthy of her. The preacher turned to Laura. Do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Laura looked at the man who'd saved them, who confessed his sins, who stood ready to face whatever came next. I do, not in spite of his past, but because he's choosing a different future. The preacher smiled. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. What God has joined, let no man separate. They kissed, brief and real, while the crowd erupted in mixed applause. Not everyone approved, but enough did. Sophie hugged them both. Does this mean I get to keep calling you Papa? The cowboy knelt. If you'll keep having me. The marshal approached with papers. Marriage helps your case, but there's still the matter of legal adoption. You'll need character witnesses, community support, evidence that the child's welfare is served by staying with you rather than being placed elsewhere. Elder Moses stepped forward first. I'll witness. Known this man 3 years. Watched him withdraw from life after his family died. Watched him come back to life when these two arrived. He's a good father, a good man. Made mistakes, but owns them. Martha Henderson joined him. I'll witness too. Laura helped me escape Stokes. Taught me to read. Gave me hope when I had none. They're good people. One by one, others came forward. Thomas Shopkeeper. 3 miners who'd worked with Laura's husband. Mrs. Chun, still crying from her earlier confession. Even some who'd judged them harshly admitted they've done right by the child. Anyone can see that. The marshal took notes, his stern face softening slightly. This is highly irregular, but given the circumstances and the fraud involved in the opposing claim, I'm willing to recommend immediate adoption proceedings. He pulled out official forms. Both of you sign here. Sophie, you're too young to sign, but place your handprint here. They signed with shaking hands. Sophie pressed her small palm into the ink, then onto the paper. The marshal stamped it with his federal seal. It's done. Sophie is legally yours. Completely. No blood relative can challenge this without proving severe unfitness. And after today, no judge would hear that case. Relief flooded through them like warm water. Laura clutched the papers to her chest. The cowboy lifted Sophie, held her tight. "You're ours now. Forever. Nobody can take you away." Sophie wrapped her arms around his neck. "I was always yours, Papa." The paper just makes it official. The marshal wasn't finished. There's another matter. The mine collapse investigation. Federal government's been looking into safety violations across the territory. We need witnesses, people who worked for the companies, who know how they operated. He looked directly at the cowboy. "Your testimony would be valuable, but I won't lie to you. It can mean prison time. Depends on what you did, what you knew, what you can prove." The cowboy didn't hesitate. "I'll testify. Tell them everything. Whatever consequences come, I'll face them." Laura grabbed his hand. "We'll wait for you, however long it takes." But the marshal surprised them. "There might be another option. We need mine inspectors, men who know the dangers, who've seen the corruption, who want to prevent future deaths instead of just punishing past ones. Dangerous work. You travel, be away from home sometimes. But it's legal work, honest work, way to make amends." The cowboy looked at his new wife, his new daughter. "We'll mean time away, weeks at a time." Sophie's face fell. "But you come back?" He knelt to her level. "Always. I promise. This is my home now. You're my home." Laura touched his face. "Then do it. Save other families like you saved us. Make something good from something bad." 2 months passed. The cowboy prepared for his first inspection trip, while Laura and Sophie settled into married life. The cabin expanded with help from townspeople trying to make amends. New room added, proper kitchen built, small touches that made a house a home. Sophie thrived, learning to read, helping with chores, growing stronger every day. One evening as the cowboy packed his saddlebags, Laura found him alone in their bedroom. She took his hand, placed it on her stomach. "I'm pregnant." The world stopped. His face cycled through shock, joy, terror. "How long?" She smiled. 2 months. "I'm sure." Fear crashed over him. "What if something happens? What if I lose you like I lost Anna? I can't go through that again." Laura cupped his face in her hands. "Look at me. I'm not Anna. This isn't then. We have a doctor. We have Elder Moses who knows midwifery. We're prepared. And even if something happened, Sophie would still have you. I want her to have you." He collapsed against her, shaking. "I'm terrified." She held him. "So am I. But we can't live in fear of what-ifs. We have to live anyway." That night they told Sophie about the baby. She was ecstatic. A real baby? In the cradle Papa built. She placed her hand on Laura's stomach. "Hello, baby. I'm your big sister. I'll protect you always." They sat together, family of 3, soon to be 4, making plans and promises. The next morning brought Elder Moses riding hard to the cabin. Trouble. Michael Brennan escaped from the transport to federal prison. Killed one guard, wounded another. Last seen heading this way. He swore revenge. The cowboy's blood went cold. When was this? Moses checked his pocket watch. 3 days ago. Could be here any time. Laura's face went pale, hand instinctively protecting her stomach. Sophie heard everything from the doorway. Is the bad man coming back? The cowboy made a decision. We don't run. This is our land. Our home. We defend it. Moses nodded. I figured you'd say that. Already sent word to others. They're coming to help. Within hours, families arrived. Miners. Townspeople. Even some who'd opposed the marriage came armed and ready. Town protects its own now, one said simply. They fortified the cabin. Set up watch rotations. Loaded rifles. The cowboy positioned people strategically while Laura and other women prepared supplies. Sophie helped quietly, her young face serious. That night they waited. Tension thick as fog. Sophie couldn't sleep, came to her parents' bed. The lady came to me, she whispered. Both parents went still. What lady, sweetheart? Laura asked gently. Sophie's voice was sleepy but certain. The pretty lady with dark hair. She said not to be scared. Said Papa's coming home early tomorrow, and everything will be okay if we stay together. The cowboy and Laura exchanged glances. Anna. Sophie was dreaming of Anna. Just a dream, sweetheart, Laura said softly, but Sophie shook her head. No, she was real. She touched my hair and said, "Tell your pop I'm proud of him. Tell him spring is coming and it brings life, not death." The cowboy's throat tightened. Those were Anna's exact words to him once, years ago when they'd planted their first garden. Words no one else could know. He pulled Sophie close. "Then we'll trust her. We'll stay together and we'll be okay." Sophie fell asleep between them, peaceful and sure. But the cowboy stayed awake, watching the darkness, waiting. Dawn came cold and gray. Just as Sophie predicted, riders appeared on the horizon. 3 of them. The cowboy grabbed his rifle, but then he recognized the lead horse. His horse. He'd left it stabled in town. "Hold fire," he shouted. "That's me." He rode into the clearing with 2 federal agents flanking him. He'd gotten word about Michael's escape and ridden 3 days straight to get home. Laura and Sophie ran out, crashed into him as he dismounted. "You came back early," Laura said, amazed. "Just like Sophie said you would." The agents explained quickly. "Michael's close. Our tracker found signs. He hired 2 men, all 3 armed. They're maybe 3 hours behind us." The cowboy assessed his defenders. Good people, but not fighters. Women, children, old men, against 3 killers with nothing to lose. Get the women and children into the cabin. Barricade the doors. Armed men, take positions. We end this today. They barely had time to prepare before smoke rose from the south pasture. Fire. Michael's strategy was to burn them out. The dry autumn grass caught fast, flames racing toward the cabin on the wind. "Half of you fight the fire. Half defend," the cowboy shouted. Chaos erupted. Women hauling water, men beating flames with blankets, children crying inside the cabin. Through the smoke, 3 riders appeared. Michael in the lead, his wounded shoulder bandaged, but his gun hand steady. He'd lost everything, had nothing left but revenge. The 2 men with him were hardened criminals, the kind who killed for pay and never looked back. One of the federal agents fired first. The gunfight was brief and brutal. One hired gun went down, the agent shot true. The other hired gun panicked and fled, spurring his horse away from the fight. But Michael kept coming, rode straight through the smoke toward the cabin. The cowboy fired, missed. Michael was off his horse now, moving fast despite his injury. He crashed through a window into the cabin where Laura and Sophie huddled with 3 other women. Glass shattered. Women screamed. Michael grabbed Sophie, his knife at her throat. "It ends now," he shouted. "She dies or she comes with me." The cowboy burst through the door. Saw his daughter, saw the knife, saw death inches away. "Let her go, Michael. This is between you and me." Michael's eyes were wild, insane with rage and pain. "Between us? You took everything. You married her, made that child yours. You stole my family." The cowboy kept his voice calm, moving slowly closer. "She was never yours. You can't own people. Love doesn't work that way." Sophie spoke then, her voice small but steady. "The lady told me what to say. She said to tell you. Hate is just love that forgot how to heal." The words, so profound from a child's mouth, stopped Michael cold. For just a second, confusion replaced rage in his eyes. That second was enough. Sophie went limp, dropped straight down. Michael's grip loosened in surprise. The cowboy lunged forward, knocked the knife away, took Michael down hard. They hit the floor in a tangle of limbs. Michael fought like a cornered animal, all teeth and desperation. But the cowboy was fighting for his family now, not from rage, but from love, and love made him stronger. He got Michael's arm twisted behind his back, knee on his spine, got his own knife out, pressed it to Michael's throat. "Give me one reason not to end this right now." Michael spat blood. "Do it. Prove you're still a killer." The cowboy's hand shook. He wanted to. God, he wanted to. Wanted to erase this threat forever. But Sophie was watching. His daughter was watching. He couldn't let her see him become that man again. He threw the knife aside. I was a killer. Not anymore. You don't get to make me that again. The federal agents burst in, took Michael into custody. This time they'd use chains, armed guards, maximum security. He was done. The fire was contained, the cabin damaged but standing. Everyone alive. The cowboy held Laura and Sophie, all three shaking with relief. "It's over," Laura whispered. "It's really over." Elder Moses stood in the doorway. "Spring's coming early this year. Look," he pointed outside where the fire had burned. In the blackened earth, tiny green shoots were already pushing through. Wildflowers, impossibly resilient. Life insisting on itself, even after destruction. "That's us," Sophie said softly. "We got burned, but we're growing back." 3 weeks later, Laura went into labor. It was evening, sunset painting the sky red and gold. Contractions started gentle, then built. The cowboy rode for the doctor, while Martha stayed with Laura. Sophie was sent to Mrs. Chin's house, but she left a note on her parents' bed. "Don't be scared, Papa." The lady promised. "Spring brings life. Love you." The labor was long. Too long. The cowboy paced outside, splitting firewood like a madman because he needed his hands busy or he'd tear the cabin apart with fear. Every scream from inside was Anna's scream. Every hour that passed was the storm that killed his first family. Dr. Morrison finally came out at midnight, exhausted. "Baby's turned wrong. Might need to do surgery. It's risky." The cowboy's world collapsed. "Don't let her die. Please. Do whatever you have to, but don't let her die." The doctor went back in. Another hour passed. The longest hour of the cowboy's life. Then a sound. Thin, high, angry. A baby crying. The most beautiful sound in the world. Dr. Morrison emerged, smiling despite his exhaustion. "You have a son. Strong, healthy, perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, lungs like a singer." The cowboy couldn't breathe. "Laura." The doctor's smile widened. "Tired. Tore some. She'll need rest. But she's fine. She's asking for you. Permission to believe. Permission to hope." He went inside on shaking legs. Laura lay in their bed, pale and sweating, holding a tiny bundle. She'd never looked more beautiful. "Come meet your son," she whispered. He approached like approaching sacred ground. Looked down at the tiny face, the closed eyes, the perfect miniature fingers. "He looks like you," Laura said. The cowboy's voice broke. "He looks like hope." He took his son carefully, terrified and awed. The baby opened his eyes, dark and unfocused, and the cowboy fell in love all over again. "Hello," he whispered. "I'm your papa. I've been waiting for you. I promise I'll do better this time. I promise." Sophie arrived at dawn, couldn't wait any longer. Burst through the door, then froze, seeing the baby. Approached slowly, reverently. "That's your brother," Laura said. "Want to hold him?" Sophie nodded, sat carefully, accepted the precious bundle. Looked down at him with fierce protective love. "Hello, baby brother. I'm Sophie, your big sister. I'll keep you safe. Always. The lady promised me you'd be okay, and she was right." The baby yawned, snuggled into her arms. The cowboy watched his 2 children together and felt Anna's presence like a warm hand on his shoulder. Blessing, not haunting. Approval, not jealousy. "What's his name?" Sophie asked. Laura and the cowboy had discussed it endlessly. "Thomas," Laura said. "Thomas Michael." Sophie frowned. "Why Michael?" "That's the bad man's name." The cowboy explained gently. "Because names don't belong to bad people forever. We're taking it back, making it mean something good. Thomas means twin, and Michael means gift from God. He's both. Twin to the Sophie we lost. Gift to the life we found." 2 years passed. Spring afternoon. The ranch thriving beyond anything they'd imagined. Sophie was 10 now, reading to 3-year-old Thomas under the big oak tree. He listened, enraptured, interrupting with endless questions. Laura was pregnant again, due in summer, glowing with health. She and the cowboy worked the garden, comfortable rhythm perfected by time and love. "Think we'll have room for another?" she teased. He laughed, the sound coming easy now. "We'll make room. We always do." Sophie brought Thomas to help plant seeds. He helped by throwing dirt and giggling. Four-person family, soon to be five. The cabin had grown too. Extra bedrooms, proper porch, flower boxes in the windows. Signs of life everywhere. Elder Moses visited with news. Town council voted. They want to name the new school after you, Laura, for teaching half the women in the territory to read. Laura refused immediately. Name it after learning, not me. They compromised. The Hope School. After Sophie's horse. After what they'd all become. That evening, family dinner around a table the Cowboy built. Thomas said grace in his adorable, mostly wrong way. Thank you for food. Thank you for family. Thank you for the mama in the ground who sent us Papa. Sophie had taught him that prayer, honoring Anna always, weaving her into their story instead of hiding her away. After dinner, Sophie read her finished poem, My Two Mothers, about Anna who gave her father, Laura who gave her life, about love multiplying instead of dividing, about graves growing flowers and cradles rocking with new dreams. Everyone cried, even Thomas, not understanding but feeling the emotion. Bedtime came. Both children tucked in, Thomas in his small bed now. The cradle waited in the corner for the new baby, still beautiful, still blessed. Sophie asked the question she asked every night. Are you happy, Papa? Really happy? He sat on her bed, considered honestly. Yes, more than I thought possible, more than I deserve. Sophie's voice was fierce. You deserve it. You saved us. You get to be saved too. He kissed her forehead, moved to Thomas, who was already asleep. Thank you for being here, he whispered to his son, for making me a papa again, for teaching me that hearts can hold more than one family. Outside, he joined Laura on the porch. Their evening ritual, sitting in chairs he built, holding hands, watching sunset paint the sky. The two graves were visible in the distance, surrounded by wildflowers that bloomed year-round now. No longer sources of pain, just part of the landscape, part of their story. What are you thinking? Laura asked. The Cowboy looked at her. Wife, mother of his children, savior of his soul, that I spent 3 years believing I was buried with him. She leaned her head on his shoulder. And now? He smiled. Now I know I wasn't buried. I was planted, waiting for the right rain to grow. She kissed him softly. We all were. They sat in peaceful silence as stars emerged. Inside, children slept safely. Around them, land they'd built together. Behind them, graves that blessed instead of haunted. Ahead, whatever came, they'd face together. The camera pulled back slowly. Aerial view of the ranch at twilight. Lights glowing in cabin windows. Smoke rising from the chimney in a steady white column. Two figures on the porch, hands joined, graves with wildflowers in the distance. Everything connected, everything whole. Text appeared over the final image. Love doesn't fill the holes grief leaves. It builds around them. And sometimes the long way home is the only way that teaches us we were never truly lost. The screen faded to black. Peace earned. Peace permanent.